Hey there. Let's talk about something that drives anyone in sales absolutely crazy. You've got this perfect, logical, data-driven pitch, and it just falls flat. Today, we're going to dig into why that happens, and I'll show you a much smarter, science-backed way to actually connect with people. You know the feeling, right? You've laid out all the facts, the figures, the case studies. I mean, you've proven beyond any doubt why your solution is the only logical choice. And then they go with someone else. Maybe someone with a worse product. It's beyond frustrating, and it makes zero sense. So what do we usually do? We just double down on the logic. We say stuff just like this. We talk about being 2% more efficient or shipping 1 week faster. We build this entire cathedral of rational points because we assume that's how people decide. But what if that whole foundation is just wrong? All right, so let's get into what's really going on here. We're going to call it the logic trap. It's this belief that buying and selling are these perfectly rational, spreadsheet-driven activities. But as we're about to see, that idea is what's holding so many of us back. Here's the absolute heart of the issue, and it comes straight from neuroscience. We stuff our PowerPoints full of features, benefits, charts, and data, all designed to appeal to logic. But the actual science of how we make decisions shows us this is, frankly, the wrong way to do it. We're basically speaking the wrong language to the part of the brain that's actually in charge. So if it's not logic, how do our brains make a buying decision? This next part, this is the aha moment. Once you see this, you can't unsee it. Let's pop the hood and take a quick look at what's going on inside our heads. Okay, let's keep this really simple. Think of your brain as having two key parts for this process. First, you've got the limbic system. You can call it the animal brain. It runs on emotion, instinct, and gut feelings. It's super fast, and here's the kicker. It is the real decision maker. Then you have the prefrontal cortex, the human brain. That's the logical part. But its main job isn't to make the choice, it's to justify the choice the animal brain already made. And this just nails it perfectly. See, we're not logical creatures who occasionally feel. We are feeling creatures who occasionally think. The decision to buy, to trust, to move forward is made on an emotional level first. Fear, excitement, trust, security. The logical brain just comes in afterward to clean up and write the report on why it was a brilliant move all along. Okay, so if emotion is king, where does everything go so wrong in a typical sales call? Well, it happens in what we can call the great emotional mismatch. It's this massive disconnect between the buyer's emotional journey and the seller's. Just look at this timeline. It shows two people on completely different planets. The buyer shows up full of emotion. They're thinking, do I like this person? Do they understand my problem? Meanwhile, the seller kicks off with pure logic. Here are my features, here's my data, here's my price. They are like two ships passing in the night. It's a total emotional mismatch. And the result of this? It's a disaster. When a seller jumps straight into a product demo trying to impress with facts and figures, they're talking logic to a person who is still running on pure emotion. The buyer just tunes out. They feel like they haven't been heard. And boom, the deal is dead. And it had nothing to do with price or features. It was lost because there was never an emotional connection. So, how do we fix this? How do we actually get in sync with the buyer? The answer is to stop thinking B2B and start thinking H to H, human to human. Let's open up the toolkit. All right, tool number one is something Gartner calls sense-making. Look, buyers today are drowning in information. Most of it's good, but it's often contradictory. Your job is not to dump more information on them. Your job is to be their guide, their curator. You help them cut through the noise so they can feel clear and confident enough to actually make a choice. And the stakes for getting this right are, well, they're massive. Gartner found that when a buyer feels overwhelmed with information, the seller's chance of closing a high-quality sale drops by 66%. Let that sink in. 2/3 of your potential just vanishes into thin air because of information overload. Okay, our second tool is a powerful piece of psychology called cognitive dissonance. All this means is that uncomfortable, squirmy feeling you get when your beliefs don't line up with your actions. And you can use this to help a prospect realize on their own that they need to change without ever having to attack them. Now, here's the critical part. You never, ever go on the attack. If you tell someone their current vendor is terrible, what happens? Their walls go up instantly. They get defensive. You've basically challenged their past decisions, and now they have to prove you wrong. You started a fight you can't win. So instead of attacking, you ask this brilliant, almost magical question. Now, why does this work so well? It's because of a little quirk in our brains called the negativity effect. When you ask someone what they like, they'll usually list one or two things. And then their brain will automatically pivot to all the things they don't like. You aren't pointing out the problems. You're letting them do it. And that creates the opening for change. So, all of this really boils down to a pretty simple philosophy. It's about being a real human. Be authentic. Build some actual rapport before you even think about your product. Give them something valuable before you ask for anything in return. Listen for their emotional needs. And the most important part, you have to actually mean it. People can smell a fake sales tactic from a mile away, but they can also feel genuine sincerity. So when you put all these pieces together, it becomes pretty obvious. For a lot of us, it's probably time to toss out that old logic-heavy script. It's time for a completely new kind of pitch. And I really want to leave you with this idea because it flips a common sales cliché on its head. We always hear that people buy on price when they don't see value. But the truth is much deeper. People fall back on price as a tiebreaker only when there's no real human emotional connection. Once you build that connection, the whole conversation about price just changes. So the last question here is for you to take with you. Now that you know how decisions are really made, now that you see the great emotional mismatch, take an honest look at your own approach. How much does your pitch need to change?